We turn to politics now. Former President Donald Trump says he'll clarify his stance on abortion sometime next week. At a campaign rally yesterday in Michigan, Trump was asked if he supported his home state of Florida's restrictive 6-week abortion ban.
Mr. President, do you support the 6-week abortion ban that the Florida Supreme Court just upheld?
We'll be making a statement next week on abortion. We're going to make a statement next week.
Trump saying he'll make a statement next week. President Biden responded on social media with a quote from Trump where he bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade. Captioned with, quote, "You already made your statement, Donald." Joining us now, national politics reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Good to see you, Julia. So first of all, Trump saying he'll have a statement next week is so reminiscent of when he was in office and he was asked something he didn't want to answer. He'd say, "Oh, we'll have a plan for you in 2 weeks, 2 weeks time, 2 weeks time." And it would never occur. So we'll see how long he can dodge this. And of course, abortion front and center again now because of what's happening in his home state in Florida. That state's Supreme Court ruling that at least temporarily enforces that 6-week abortion ban and puts abortion access on the ballot again in that state in November. So abortion, we know, a big deal. Talk to us about how the Biden campaign plans to highlight it, and also how do we expect Trump to try to navigate it?
Right, Jonathan, a very big deal, particularly in a state like Florida, a state where many of us were saying wasn't really going to be in play this election. But now we're really starting to talk about it because of this issue of abortion. Look, Donald Trump understands this is a vulnerable issue for Republicans, and you really just need to look at down ballot races and, special elections across the country where we've seen in red states like Alabama, for example, or even that ballot measure in Ohio last year where, Democrats and abortion rights activists really campaigned and were able to get victories on this issue. So we know that Donald Trump has been very careful to navigate this in a post-Roe versus Wade world. But right now, he's really being put on the spot, and delaying answering that question is really only giving more, fodder and more ammunition in a way to his critics, Democrats and President Biden. Now, the Biden campaign is full steam ahead on this issue. They want to talk about this issue. They want to make this front and center. And while Democrats, are optimistic about Florida, but temper that optimism, saying that, they won't necessarily win the state on abortion, there is a feeling that this measure in Florida could very well pass. And at the same time, Democrats could run up the score in Florida and sort of distract Republicans, making them spend more money on Florida because of the abortion issue and, essentially tying up their resources there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Florida become very red in recent cycles, but if the GOP has to spend money there, that's worth it in itself for Democrats. So in your latest piece in The Hill, you reported how the Biden campaign is now starting to court Nikki Haley voters. There'd been some criticism they'd been slow to do that. But how does abortion factor into those efforts, Julia?
Yeah, so in those efforts, it's interesting because when I was on the ground, and particularly in New Hampshire, which Nikki Haley, she did pretty well, and she didn't win New Hampshire, but she came in second and, was able to hold her own against former President Trump. There were a number of Haley supporters, Republican and independent, that I chatted with who said that they liked her stance on abortion, saying they liked that she said she wanted consensus on the issue, that this wasn't going to be decided at the federal level. So she really took a step back as opposed to other Republicans like Ron DeSantis, who signed that 6-week abortion ban in question into law in Florida. So I think a lot of Nikki Haley supporters might be more moderate on the issue as compared to Trump, and Biden's campaign sees an opening there, particularly in the suburbs. Over the past few election cycles, we've seen Democrats really run up the score with women, but also with suburban women in the suburbs. And abortion is an area where I think they feel they can do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. So key, Julia, suburban women. Tell us a little bit more about the Republicans' ongoing struggles with that group.
So in terms of suburban women, we've seen Republicans struggling with that group really going back to 2018. The first election cycle, Donald Trump face his first midterm cycle as president. And Republicans have continued to lose that group. And when you look, not only at the presidential level in 2020 when Biden was running against Trump, but in 2022, Democrats were really able to run up the score with the suburban women in various key states like Arizona, like Pennsylvania, for example, 2020, Georgia, 2022, in the Georgia Senate race, suburban women as well. So Republicans have been on the defense with this group, mainly, or one of the main reasons is because of abortion. We know that this group might have the tendency to sometimes lean more conservatively or somewhat right-leaning when it comes to the economy. However, on these social issues and on Donald Trump himself, they're very much more likely to support Democrats or seem more likely to support Democrats. So it's going to be an uphill climb for Republicans this cycle with this group.
We appreciate the analysis, as always. National politics reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester, thank you for joining us this morning. Up next, we'll dig into Donald Trump's latest attempt to hijack Christian themes for his own political purposes and quests for power. Elise Jordan will join us to discuss that. And then coming up on Morning Joe, the ex-president returns to the campaign trail with stops in the battleground states of Michigan and Wisconsin. And he once again railed against migrants and spread more election lies. Plus, which battleground states now show President Biden and former President Trump in a very tight race? We'll dig into those numbers. And also ahead, actresses Gillian Anderson and Billie Piper will be live in studio to talk about their upcoming Netflix film, Scoop. You won't want to miss that. Morning Joe, just a few moments away.
Watching MSNBC.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.